Yeah, Stella, baby. Finna get right. Here we go. Yeah, listen. I ain't really tryna hold too much pride. Feeling like Michael, how I beat those odds, yeah. She's a real winner, and I can't deny she fine as wine with time. I don't really care for the clout nor fame, but you better make sure you know my name, yeah. This is real life, and it ain't no game. When you see me in the skyline, knock me down, come back up. Watch her work, watch her strut now. I don't care what they say, I'ma still have my way. I'm alright, that's for sure. I know I can endure. Back and forth, on and on. Yes, I'm on quite a run, yeah.
Welcome to Rooted Within Her, your go-to podcast. We are founded off of Colossians 2:7, where we are rooted in Christ, strengthening our faith, and overflowing with thankfulness. I am Brittany Bossup, your host, a devoted mom, veteran, mental health therapist, author, international keynote speaker, and your wealth and wellness coach. We are going to be talking about mental health, storytelling, relationships, and making sure you feel empowered with a positive mindset each and every day. Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms. That's at Rooted Within Her. And go to our website, rootedwithinher.com, where you can get access to all of our resources to help you if you are a corporation looking to restructure your employee wellness, or if you are a divorced mom and you are looking for those resources to help you heal and rebuild. This is your go-to podcast. Again, that is rootedwithinher.com. Sit back and enjoy. Welcome to Rooted Within Her. Today we have a very special guest, Dr. Nona. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm excited. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Yes, well, I'm excited for you being on Rooted Within Her. Tell us about you and who you are.
Man, where do I begin? I am. I have a bunch of long stories I can tell you, but I can tell you super easy to start with. I'm a mom. I've got 2 boys. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a philanthropist. I've written a couple of books. I write for Forbes on a monthly basis. Fun fact about me, I live between Southern California and Italy. And also, another fun fact, it didn't all start out this juicy. I've gone through some struggles, and those are probably the more important parts of who I am and I am here.
Yes, and you're right. When you go through those struggles, those are the times and the moments that it prepares us for the next level, the next things that are happening in our day-to-day. Being a boy mom, I know that's exciting. I have 3 sons myself and 1 daughter. What made you become an author? What led to you becoming an author and philanthropist?
Okay. Yeah, I truly when I was 2.5, I had my earliest childhood memory. And this is when my mom had been trying to have children for the longest time. Even before she had me, she had a hard time conceiving. She had multiple miscarriages, and then she had me, which I'm the first child. And then I was 2.5, and I remember my mom was pregnant. This is the earliest childhood memory that I have. And I think more importantly, I remember my little brother was born, and my dad in the hospital sort of lifted me up, and there was this glass situation, and all these little cribs were on the other side of the glass. And my dad lifted me up and showed me where my little brother was. And that scene, even like the smell and what I saw and what I felt and all of those things are so vivid in my memory. because that moment actually turned out to be one of the most traumatic experiences of my life, because my brother, shortly after being born, actually passed away in the hospital due to medical complications. So having gone through that at such an early age, there were so many, um, you know, I can't call it wisdom because it wasn't really planted. I didn't really understand, obviously, until I was an adult, way later in life, the wisdom of life, right? The little crumbs, the breadcrumbs, when you look back and you see, okay, this is the traumatic experience that happened to plant the seed of healer inside of myself. Because I remember when I was a little girl, I used to watch my mom cry uncontrollably in the kitchen because she had just lost a baby and she really wanted to have another child. And I'm sure the complications of all of that emotionally, I took that as I'm going to heal her, or I'm going to help her, I'm going to help my family, and never really wanted anybody else to experience that level of pain that my mom and my family was going through. So I think going through that, one of the things I picked up was it was possible to get somebody and help somebody out of pain. And this theme sort of played out throughout my entire life. I mean, I was always the helper. I was always sort of the healer. I was always the person that wanted to share and make someone's life better, if you would. And as a result of that, I ended up going to chiropractic school. I became a chiropractor and I wanted to heal people through chiropractic. And then later, I learned business and I became really passionate about entrepreneurship and I wanted to help people with their businesses. And I have, I'm involved in some organizations helping children. So this theme of wanting to help other people and wanting to provide and wanting to heal, it really began from a traumatic experience that I had at a young age. And it evolved over time. There was also a period of time where I felt like I was carrying the load of everybody, of family. This is what in my last marriage, I was carrying the load, and I maybe this hyper identity of healer, helper, and the fixer sort of stopped serving me to some degree, over giving in my marriage and delivering in business, and I burnt out in that process too. But that's really where it all began, when I was really, really young.
Wow, that is so remarkable. And that's good and bad, right? It's good when we're a giver and we want to help people, but also I found that people take advantage of you a lot when you are that person who is the giver. And so, what would you say is a lesson you learned, or what advice would you give to someone who's like, I'm that person too, I'm the giver. And I find myself just like having a hard time setting those boundaries, but I know that I am on the right track, treating people right, and trying to be that person who really wants to just help people and see people be healthy and whole.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll tell you the quote unquote advice I would give are all the things that we hear out there. It's like the cliche, like you have to put yourself first, you have to fill up your cup first, and you have to. And I heard all of those things in that phase of my life, but I had the hardest time actually hearing it, or actually sort of listening to it and actually putting myself first. Or maybe I would go get my hair done, or take a nap or whatever, and I would think that I was really putting myself first. I think for me, it was a moment that I had because I'll tell you, I was at this point, I was maybe in my early 20s. I'd done everything the world had told me to do. I went to college, I went to Berkeley, I got a degree in neurology, I went to chiropractic school, I got my doctorate. I moved down to Orange County, Southern California, where I live now, and I opened a business. My business was really successful. I got married. I had my first child. I mean, I was like going through life and checking off literally every single box that the world had told me to check off that was going to make me successful. It was going to make me happy. And then here I was over-giving in my relationship, over-delivering in my business. I had put all of my life into the life that I had built. And at the same time, I was completely empty and I was broken and I was lonely. And I think this is something that is very common in women in general. We tend to be the nurturing role in the family, or even in the business dynamics, or if you work for a corporation, you tend to be the nurturing one. You tend to be the one that takes care of the people. Whether you're a mom or not, you're playing mom one way or another. Either emotionally, physically, mentally, you're just kind of handling the situation. And so I remember sitting and I really had a God moment in a closet space. I walked into a walk-in closet. I shut down the door. I shut down the lights. I literally sat next to the wall, held on to my knees, and I started sobbing, because not because I had failed by any standards, but it was because I had built this quote unquote successful life, and my life was working. I was helping my husband build his business. I had a child, all of these things. And yet I was completely burnt out and tired and exhausted and empty. And in that closet, in the depth sort of despair and depression, is when I had a God moment where I truly understood how to integrate what it means to put myself first. And for me, it was bigger than, it was no longer like, get your hair done and get your nails done and take a nap. No. It was like, what is my vision for life? Like, why was I brought to this? What is my soul's purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? The thing that I'm supposed to be doing that I'd forgotten through all the overgiving and through looking for approvals and validations of society and culture and, the world, I'd forgotten who I came here to be and to become and to evolve into. And I remember sitting in the closet and having a moment where I was reminded, of the life that I was here to live. And that vision that I had for life that God planted in my heart, the seed of it was planted in my heart. That vision seemed so impossible. It just seemed completely out there. Like, who am I sitting in the closet crying over something that I should be grateful for? And then God's telling me there's this vision out there for your life, full of adventure, full of contribution, full of all the safe love also, because I was in a marriage that wasn't working at the time. And I remember walking out of that closet, and this is where it totally shifted for me. I walked out of the closet and I was like, you know what I've been doing hasn't been working. And what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to keep saying yes to this vision that I was given, that I had even since I was a little girl. So advice sometimes is to go through it instead of trying to skip over it, to go through the pain, really sit with the pain, because that's where transformation really takes place in the moments of sorrow, and then the depth of things are not working out. That's when you actually have listened to the quote unquote advice that's already within you, right? Put yourself first, up your cup, do all the things, and that is going to be the best case scenario for everybody involved. You're not being selfish by putting your vision first. I mean, I can't imagine now my kids are happy and healthy. I have a beautiful co-parenting relationship with my ex-husband. I'm about to get married to my fiance and, get to live this beautiful life. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm so glad you shared that, because, divorce is one of those things where it's so hard to see past what you see. And I think so many times people don't realize, because when a woman makes her decision, trust and believe she's gone through everything before she makes her decision. And so many times people are like, well, did you try this? Did you try that? And you're like, yes, I did all the things that I could do, from praying to fasting to you name it. And I just love how you shared your story, because it really is one of those things where you feel like, okay, I don't know. I had this vision that we were gonna, travel the world together, raise our kids together. And now it's like things happen, and it's one of those things that you can't ignore. As someone who's gone through divorce myself, I realized that when we pray for those times, we have to be ready because God's given them to us. We just have to be ready to trust Him and really take that next step. But for our listeners who are listening today, who are like, how could you allow yourself to love again? Because that's the biggest thing I hear from so many of my clients as a mental health therapist is, when you're stuck, you're in the tunnel, you're like, I will never, ever this, that, and the other, because you've been through so much. And the co-parenting gets, well, if you're focused on the kids, it shouldn't be hard. It can get a little cloudy. So what advice would you give to someone who is navigating the co-parenting and also who is really like, how do you know that you can trust someone again after what you've gone through the first time?
Man, okay, let's break this one down. I'll just share my experience. You're so right on point with what you're saying in terms of one, to open up again to love and to experience that. And also having done everything, because I think there's a lot of judgment around when women initiate divorce, because then it's like, well, was he beating you up? Was he,
Yes,
abusive?
you're like, look, there's so much more.
Is there so much more to it? And also, if he wasn't let's say he wasn't doing those things, right? And in a lot of cases, that is the case. But even if he wasn't doing those things, but I was unhappy for those many years, and I tried everything, and we're just not a good match. Do you expect me to stay in marriage that is not working, right? Do you expect me to live a loveless life for the rest of my life just because my husband is not cheating on me or is not beating me? There's so much judgment around that. And so there's a lot of overcoming by the time you get to divorce. I remember even you're a therapist. And so I went to a therapist. We went to a therapist, and I said, this is my situation. I'm unhappy. These are the things I've tried. And she, in so many words, she told me to go home and be grateful for what I have, that he's not, he's perfectly fine man, which he is. He just wasn't a perfectly fine man for me.
And it does matter what therapist you go to, because I've heard so many different things. And I actually had a client not long ago who was like, you're the first therapist to encourage me to do what's best for me. And I was like, that's what life is about, because one thing I had to tell myself, if I stay, I already know what comes with all of this. And I cannot be mad at anyone but myself. But to lead is empowering, because now our children even see it. They're like, oh, mom, you're happier, or you're, it's so many things. Our kids see everything, and we don't even realize that they actually see, and they deserve to have healed, whole parents who can be the best version of themselves for them.
Yeah. And how can we teach our children to be happy and do the things that make them happy, and to be kind, and if we're not an example of that at home, right? So in some ways, divorce, I mean, I know it's really tough for a lot of people, especially women who are not financially, I talk to women all the time, if they're not financially prepared to go through a divorce, or they're just scared. Most people are going to be fine on the other side of this. But how do we open up to love? Okay, I have a funny story to tell you about this. When I first got separated, I was like, I'm on a date, I'm not going to date. I went through all the different phases of it. But by the time I started dating, and I have a full life, at this time, still do, but like 2 kids and business and speaking and travel and a whole bunch of other things. So it wasn't like dating was a priority, but I did have this vision for a beautiful, incredible relationship that was always sexy, not just in the first year or couple of years, but I just wanted this unicorn of a relationship. And I remember I wrote about it, and I remember I described it to a T, like the things I would want to experience, not like tall, dark, and handsome, but more like not physical attributions, but more like, what do I want to feel? What do I want to create? What kind of life do I want to build with this man? What kind of a father figure he would be to my children, like a stepfather figure, I guess. And so I wrote it all out, and I kid you not, I had like 21 pages described. And I remember thinking, is this even possible? Am I just totally dreaming about something that's not even a possibility? And I remember making a commitment to either that or nothing, like that or in seek of it, or that, because if it's in my mind and if God's put this in my heart that this is your vision for your relation, it's got to exist. Maybe I need to get out of the way. Maybe I need to grow to be a match for this kind of a relationship. Maybe I need to, but whatever I got to do, I'm ready to be initiated to experience that level of love, because I'd never experienced it in a serious relationship. And the funny part is, I started dating, and I remember, like, you're dating, maybe talking to multiple people are flirting with you because you're single now. So there's a lot of text messages back and forth and DMs if you're on social media. And I remember just kind of entertaining them without really entertaining, like just kind of texting back, because you feel the validation, right? Like they're giving you compliments, they want to take you out to dinner or whatever the case is. So you're so validated by these experiences, especially if you felt completely like, empty in your marriage for a very long time, many, many years. So it was like filling up some kind of cup. But I remember I was walking with a friend and I was like, I can't to meet my man, my soulmate. And my friend, I always give her credit because she has so much words of wisdom that are so simple. She said, well, if you're entertaining all these people, like none of these people are your person. They're not your soulmate. What kind of message are you giving out there? You're giving your energy, even if it's in a response in a text message or a happy, like, it doesn't matter what it is. You're still exchanging energy with the things that are not where you say you want to be. And I was like, you're so right. And I got everybody out and everything out. And I sort of fasted for about 2 weeks. I wasn't really going on a lot of dates or anything. It was more just the interaction virtually. And I cut it all out, which I can't say was an easy thing to do at the time, because it was my only form of entertainment too. And then I remember 2 weeks later, it was another in parentheses, but re-met my now fiance, because we used to date 20 plus years ago. So we got reconnected 2 weeks later, and we just didn't stop talking. We just kind of continued, and here we are many years later, and we're about to get married.
Wow.
So my advice is to believe in the possibility, to keep saying yes to the possibility, but also keep saying no and keep eliminating what is in the way, whether it's parts of your limiting belief systems and thoughts, or it's actual people in your life that you need to eliminate. You know that they're not the ones.
Yes, and I love that because that's a really great friend of yours, and you had to listen to her too, because that's right. When we interact with that type of energy, then we're still embracing that and entertaining it, and that's not even what we want. It doesn't even align with your list of 21 that's on your sheet. So
That's right.
yeah. So as we come to a close, tell our listeners, how can they stay connected with you, and how can they find out about your books and really just work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if this conversation resonates, or if there's anybody out here that you're like, you want to learn more, I teach a lot on building and living a life that is unreasonable. I have a training on how you can shift your mindset. It's a 90-minute training, but probably the best place to connect with me that I love is if you send me a message on Instagram and you say, hey, I was listening to Brittany. I'm on her podcast, and I want to, that's where I heard of you. And if you do that, I will have a gift for you. If you send me a message on there, I'd be happy to share it over with you guys.
I love that. I love that. So they're going to message you on Instagram. Can you give that to our listeners one more time so they can make sure they have the instructions right?
Yes. So go to Instagram and you could just put in my name, which is Nona, Nona, and my last name is Djavid, D as in David, J-A, V as in Victor, I-D. So if you type that in, you'll find me on Instagram, send me a message and say, hey, I saw you on, or I heard you on Rooted Within Her podcast, and I'm here for my gift. And then I'll send you something really, really cool that I think you'll like.
I love that. I love that. Well, as we come to a final close, Dr. Nona, what is your favorite scripture or quote that you would love to empower our listeners with today?
Ooh. I didn't come prepared for that one, but can I give you my favorite quote that might
Yes,
relate?
go ahead. Yes.
So, favorite quote right now in this moment is, and it's something I share with all of my students, is if you want something that is wildly different, is you're gonna have to do and become something that is wildly different.
I love that because it resonates with what you just said earlier. Like to want all these things. When we write that down, the world would tell us that's crazy to want all those things, but it's not. Especially after we've lived life and we've gone through things, we know what we need. We're changing. And God cares so much about every single need that we have that He will make sure that we have all of our heart's desires. But we have to trust Him. So, Dr. Nona, I am so grateful to have you on Rooted Within Her. I'm so glad it cleared up because at first it was a little rocky. I was like, no. But we are so
You made
excited
it.
to have you, and we'll definitely
Yes, thank
collaborate some
you.
more.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Brittany.
You're welcome. Bye. Thank you for listening to Rooted Within Her, your number one go-to podcast. If you heard something today that resonated with you, make sure you screenshot, tag us on all social media platforms, tell us what your thoughts were, what were your takeaways, and make sure you go to rootedwithinher.com so you can access all of our resources, join our challenges, find out about life coachings, and don't forget about our amazing, phenomenal retreats. So make sure you go to rootedwithinher.com. And again, thank you for listening. And I want you to have a super phenomenal day because you are God's masterpiece.